All right, so it looks like it might rain any minute here. Before we do the art store haul, I just want to show you what I'm up to. I am making some panels. Here's my wet panel carrier, which is a 16 by 20 wet panel carrier, but it will also hold 12 by 16s, 16 by 16s, and these are 16 by 20s. I also made some 14 by 28 panoramas, which obviously will not fit in here. Usually when I paint on the 14 by 28s, I will paint close to where my car is so I don't have to carry it too far. All right, so I do get a lot of questions about how I carry my wet paintings after they're finished. This is a wet panel carrier. This one's from Raymar. Pretty expensive. I think it was about $80, but very handy, and it's made out of this sort of corrugated plastic. It's got Velcro, opens up, and it is cut away so that you can put, well, you can put a 16 by 20 in. In fact, I'll load it up right now. And then cut it so that you can easily get it out. Okay, so these panels are going to get 3 coats of acrylic gesso. The final coat will have a little bit of 4F pumice in it. And what I do is I mix 2 tablespoons of 4F pumice per 1 cup of gesso. And that's just for the final coat. Like I say, it gives it some tooth, some absorbency, makes the panels a lot nicer to paint on. Okay, so this is not like a major haul, but it's an important one. First thing that I got was 4 tubes. These are big tubes of titanium white because I go through so much titanium white and I don't want to be shy about squeezing out a lot of this paint. One thing I see with beginning painters is oftentimes you'll look at their palette and there's like barely any paint on there. So I think I read somewhere when I first started, somebody said, paint like a millionaire. In other words, squeeze out a lot of paint. One thing that will also encourage you not to be shy about squeezing out paint is finding good paint at affordable prices. I believe these, what is this? It's like 200 milliliters, so it's quite a big tube. And this is about $13, I think, at Blick in San Francisco. Another key thing is mineral spirits. So the mineral spirits is what I use for cleaning my brushes. I'll also use it for, you know, cleaning up my palette. And I use Gamsol. I did use Turpenoid for a while, but I felt like Turpenoid actually evaporated faster and it seemed more toxic. Apparently Gamsol and all Gamblin products tend to be like safety oriented, so this stuff does not evaporate very quickly, so it's not like filling the room. And so I don't really notice any ill effects from this at all. And then another thing that's really important, I get the big can of Liquin. This is like as big, I'm sure they have gallon cans, but not at the store that I saw. This one is like 2.5 liters. This is about $65, but it lasts quite a while. This is what I use for most of my plein air paintings. Sometimes I'll use it when I'm painting in the studio. With the colder temperatures, I find that the paintings, if I use a traditional medium, like some sort of linseed based medium, the paintings dry so slowly that it'd be like a week before I'd be able to work on it again. Okay, and finally I've got a couple big tubes of ultramarine blue. The paints that I go through most when I'm painting landscapes are ultramarine blue and titanium white. Just go through a ton of that. All right, so for my other paints, I usually use the big tubes of Utrecht, like I've got here, yellow ochre and cadmium yellow medium, and alizarin crimson. This is my last tube of alizarin crimson. I find this, I love this color, and I've used some quinacridons to try to replace it because this is not light fast. I have paintings that I did, you know, when I first started, so 16 years ago, and they don't seem to have changed at all. But I think over a long period of time, apparently, especially if the painting is exposed to light, I think with watercolors, alizarin crimson will fade. And then with oil paintings, it tends to get darker, is what I've heard. However, it does tend to be more stable if it's used in mixes, and that's all I ever do. I don't ever use it straight. Some people who use it straight as a glaze, I never do that. I guess if you use it as a glaze straight, there's more chance of it darkening or something. Anyway, if I can find a good replacement, I'm gonna do it. And I think there's one by Rembrandt. I'll keep you guys updated on that. I'm gonna give it a test. But the quinacridones do not replace this. They're handy, but it's not the same. Okay, so kind of a small art haul, but very important. Like I said, if you're out of white paint, you're pretty much out of business. And I'm going to be doing some painting later this week. I'll be making videos about it too. So I want to be ready with panels, have plenty of paint, plenty of medium. Speaking of medium, I did get a question. Somebody asked, what medium do I use when painting indoors? And I do, like I said, I do occasionally use Liquin, but Liquin does smell really toxic. So you want to make sure if you're painting indoors that you've got really good circulation. And so when I'm painting indoors, oftentimes what I use is a mixture of 1 part stand oil to 2 parts linseed oil to 1 part odorless mineral spirits. That's kind of a linseed oil mixture that's really, it's kind of, it's a nice way to thin your paint and extend it, which is what a medium does. In the wintertime, it does take about a week to dry. So even in the studio now, I'm using Liquin just to make sure the painting's dry. All right, so I am actually going surfing now. The waves have been huge this winter. But I have been managing to get out a couple times a week. I do have a nice thick suit. It's like 5 millimeters on the body, and then I think it's 3 on the arms. I've got booties and a hood. So I have been getting out at least twice a week. And I'll just close after the outro. I'll put a clip of the surfing if it's any good. But yeah, so far we are in January, and I've been sticking with it. It's not actually that cold. The water actually is cold. Like my hands are really, definitely really cold. So I'm considering getting gloves. But to be honest with you, and the water's about 50 degrees, low 50s. But what I found is that it's actually, with the suit on and the booties and everything, it's not uncomfortable at all. It's just the hands. So anyway, that's it for this video. Let me know if you have any questions down below, and I want to thank my Patreon supporters. As usual, they make these videos possible. If you're interested in Patreon, there's a bunch of other videos on there, link down below. Other than that, thanks for hanging out, guys. See you in the next video.